Over and over on Capitol Hill, Dr. Anthony Fauci pled the fifth, declining to answer lawmaker questions on the origin of the COVID-19 pandemic. Now, think about this. This comes just days after Senator Rand Paul's office released a trove of diary entries Fauci wrote during the COVID-19 pandemic.
1 million Americans died in the pandemic, and they deserve to know why. Dangerous research was funded in Wuhan. I hope we'll get that answer today.
Any reasonable person who has followed his unhinged obsession with me would readily come to the same conclusion. Therefore, although it pains me to do so, because of the respect I have for the legislative branch of government and my decades-long record of cooperating with Congress, under the advice of my attorneys, I will invoke my right under the Fifth Amendment of the Constitution to refrain from answering your questions.
So live now to New York Times correspondent Sheryl Gay Stolberg. Sheryl, good to have you with us today. Talk about the accusations from Senator Rand Paul, because it sounds like Mr. Fauci thinks they're rather unhinged.
So the senator has repeatedly accused Dr. Fauci of funding dangerous research in Wuhan, China that started the pandemic and lying to Congress about it. Dr. Fauci has repeatedly said he did not do that. And that is really the crux of their battle.
And really, in the midst of that battle and using the crux of that battle are these journal entries, these diary entries by Dr. Fauci. As you've looked at those, do they support Rand Paul's accusations, or do they bleed them of any credibility?
So here's what I think about the diaries. A lot of information has been released already about Dr. Fauci's role in responding to the pandemic. And I see these diaries as having kind of a scientific component, but also a political component. And, you know, on the science, they really don't add much to what we already know about the origins of COVID-19 and about the way Fauci thought about it. You know, he has always said that he thought the virus was natural in origin, but he was open to a lab leak. The diaries show what we've known already, that initially he called it a conspiracy theory in his private writings. Some respected scientists came to him and said, hey, we think this could be, you know, this could have been man-made. We need to look into this. They convened a conference call on February 1st, 2020. Subsequent to that, Fauci and the other scientists concluded that they did believe it was natural in origin. So that's the science. But on the politics, there are a lot of entries in this diary where Dr. Fauci muses on his own fame and his contacts with celebrities, Barbara Streisand, Joan Baez, etc. And conservatives who criticize him are really having a field day with those personal observations.
And yet, Dr. Fauci got that blanket pardon from former President Joe Biden. So even though Senator Rand Paul says he would like the recommendation for greater accountability, there is this pardon that exists that is no small thing. So what's it all for?
So the law around that is actually a teensy bit unclear. The pardon ends on January 19th, 2025. It covers Dr. Fauci's activities in government service, you know, before that. That's the day before Biden left office. I think that in taking the Fifth Amendment, Fauci and his lawyers were probably concerned, and they haven't talked about this, but they were probably concerned that Senator Paul wants to go after him for perjury, so that if he made even the slightest misstep in testifying today, post that January 19th, 2025 deadline, that they would investigate him and accuse him of lying to Congress. Senator Paul says now that the committee is going to vote next week on whether to hold Dr. Fauci in contempt. He seems to contend that the pardon is a blanket pardon and that Dr. Fauci, you know, can't have it both ways, that he needs to testify that he can't both have a pardon and say, I'm not going to answer questions.
Important analysis. Sheryl Gay Stolberg, I thank you for it. Thank you so much for joining us here on CBS News 24/7.
Thanks.
Best to you.